Theodore hugs the coast. Theodore Tugboat watched his friend George pull Shelburne the sea barge out of the big harbour. "How far are you going today?" asked Theodore. "All the way across the ocean," replied George. "That's a long way," said Theodore. Theodore knew he couldn't leave the harbour like George. George was an ocean tug, and Theodore was still a harbour tug. "I bet I could go across the ocean." "Someday," Theodore said. The next morning, the tugs gathered for the work meeting. "There's a bell buoy on the ocean just outside the harbour," said the dispatcher. "He needs a new bell. I need one tug for the job." "I guess that's you, Emily," whispered Theodore. "Since George is away, you're the only ocean tug here." "Theodore," called the dispatcher. Me?" said Theodore. "But I'm not an ocean tug." "I know, Theodore," said the dispatcher. "But one day you will become an ocean tugboat. This little trip will be your first step." Theodore was thrilled, but he was also a little nervous. "You'll do fine," Emily told him. "Just remember what the dispatcher always says. Hug the coast." "Hug the coast?" said Theodore, puzzled. "How can I give the coast a hug?" Emily laughed. "What I mean is, stay close to the coast. That way you won't get lost." "Oh," said Theodore, "I knew that." And he set off for the ocean. When Bedford Buoy saw Theodore coming, he began to ding his bell excitedly. "Hello, Theodore," shouted Bedford. "Where are you going?" "I'm an ocean tug now," called Theodore, and he sailed right past Bedford and out of the big harbour. "I hope we'll still be friends when you get back," Bedford called softly. For a while, Theodore stayed close to the coast as Emily had said. Everything was so new and different outside the big harbour. "Look at that strange twisted tree," he said to himself, "and what a big red rock!" He saw a small fishing boat and called out, "Hello, I'm Theodore." "I'm Fundy," replied the boat in a very deep voice. "I live here in this cove." "I live in the big harbour," replied Theodore, "but I'm an ocean tug. Soon I'll be going all the way across." "The ocean wasn't filled in a day," said Fundy in a deep voice. What a strange thing to say, thought Theodore. But just then he saw Blandford Buoy and turned away from the coast for the first time. "I'm Theodore," he called out to Blandford. "I brought your new bell." "Many thanks," said Blandford. "Say, I haven't seen you out here before." "Oh, you'll probably be seeing a lot of me," said Theodore. "I'm the new ocean tug." "Do you know Bedford Buoy? He's a friend of mine," said Blandford. "Sure," replied Theodore, "but he just lives in the harbour. I probably won't see him much anymore, since I'll be out on the ocean most of the time." As Theodore turned toward home, something caught his eye. There, not too far away, was Owen, the giant oil rig. Theodore knew he was only supposed to go as far as Blandford. But, after all, he was an ocean tug now. He pooted up a puff of smoke that announced, "Theodore the ocean tug, just crossing the ocean some more," and he was on his way. Owen was a lot farther away than he looked. By the time he pulled up beside him, Theodore was puffing away, as tired as can be. "Say, if it isn't Theodore Tugboat," boomed the big rig. "Yes, sirree, Bob! What are you doing way out here?" "Oh," puffed Theodore, "just, being the new ocean tug. Phew!" "Nothing like the ocean for adventures," said Owen. "Why, I remember the time I was drilling out here for oil, and I scared up a giant octopus." The two friends began to talk, and somehow the time just slipped away. Suddenly, Theodore noticed it was getting dark. "I guess I'd better be getting home, Owen," said Theodore, and he started off. But then he stopped. With a shiver, Theodore realized he didn't know which way his home was. "If you're going to the harbor," Owen's voice boomed across the water, "it's the other way." Theodore turned and headed in the other direction. "I didn't know the ocean was so big," he said softly. "I hope I can find my way home." Theodore sailed for what seemed like a very long time, and still he didn't know where he was. All around him he saw nothing but ocean. Theodore was lost. The water under his hull felt deeper, and Theodore felt very small. "Now which way do I go?" he wondered aloud. "Just hug the coast and you'll be home in no time," called a voice. It was Blandford Buoy. "Hug the coast," Theodore repeated. "That's what Emily said." Theodore looked around, and sure enough, there was the coast. "Thanks, Blandford," he called, and set off again, already feeling a bit better. By the time Theodore reached the coast, he was so tired he felt as if his anchor were dragging. "Do I go this way?" wondered Theodore, "or that way?" "If a tug goes a-travelin'," said a very deep voice, "he won't come home a supertanker." It was Fundy, the fishing boat. "I think," thought Theodore, "that Fundy means that I should go home the same way I came." Theodore looked around the coast and saw a big red rock, and beyond it the strange twisted tree. "I know that rock," he said. "I passed it on the way here." Theodore kept on hugging the coast, and he felt as if the coast were hugging him right back. It was a nice feeling, a feeling of being safe and almost home. Finally, Theodore heard a very special sound. Ding! "Bedford!" shouted Theodore. "I went on the ocean. I saw a twisted tree and a giant red rock and a funny fishing boat. And Owen was there, and I thought I was lost, and Blandford says hello." The words just came tumbling out. "It sounds great," said Bedford. Theodore looked at his good friend. "It was great," said Theodore. "But the greatest thing I saw all day was you, Bedford." "I missed you too, Theodore," said Bedford. "I guess you'll be crossing the whole ocean soon." Theodore thought about where he'd been and all the things he'd seen. "The ocean is a big place, Bedford," he said. "I think I'll cross it a little bit at a time."